Thanks for tuning in to Becoming Something, where we promise to keep the conversation honest and real for young adults in their 20s and 30s. Every moment we live is training for a future moment, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want you to be prepared for everything that life is going to throw at you. Our hope with this podcast is that it would help you become all that God desires you to be. So with that in mind, let's jump right in to this week's episode of Becoming Something.
What's up, podcast world? It's your boy JP in the podcast studio with Kathy Davidson.
What's up? How are you?
Just living the dream. And Nathan.
Who is eating
Nathan
a
the candy cane.
A Skittles
Like
He'll
a
be
three-year-old.
cat.
A
I just turned 5.
It's a Skittles.
Seriously.
It's a Skittles candy
Yeah, on the
cane?
box it said like 5 flavors in one.
Have y'all listened to any Mariah Carey yet?
Not her, but I have for sure been listening to some Christmas.
How's it start? She does the whistle tone.
All I want for Christmas is you.
Not quite how it goes.
That?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know.
She whistles?
Yeah, she's got like
Oh,
a.
that was it.
Yeah,
That was on key.
thank you. We don't need to do
She has
it
a
again.
whistle
It probably
tone.
won't be on key.
Like where you can go falsetto
Did
so
you know
high.
she wants to call herself the Queen of Christmas?
She does
Hey,
like that.
you know who the king of
It
Christmas
really
is?
is me.
You know who the king of Christmas is? Baby Jesus.
Jesus.
No one's taking him off his throne.
That's
so this
right.
podcast is
Yeah.
about why Mariah Carey is not the queen of
No.
Christmas.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Baby Jesus is the king of Christmas and Mariah Carey is the queen of Christmas. That's where I thought you were going with that. And I was ready to jump in there.
Honestly,
Like, what in
have
the
y'all started
world?
decorating? Are y'all listening? to
Girl,
Christmas
we just
music?
got done decorating
My
staff,
hands-
staff
Oh.
Christmas decoration,
What about
your
and
own
you weren't
personal
here and you
houses?
weren't doing
I
anything.
know, I feel
My hands
I've
are
had
bloody.
so much FOMO.
You'd think at this point, I feel like I've reached
Fluffy
a point in my
Christmas
career
trees?
with the amount of Instagram followers I have
Oh, don't say
and
it.
influence is like,
Yeah,
do I
don't say
really
it.
need to be like setting stuff up?
Have you read the Bible?
Feels like a jab because I came in late this morning
that wasn't-
because I had a meeting,
that was
a
not.
very
He
important
was really
meeting.
just
That
trying to
feels
throw
like a
himself
jab,
under the
dude.
bus.
Oh, say what you got to
He
say,
wanted
dude.
us to make fun of
Say
him.
what you got to say to
That's
the
not-
people,
that's not
man.
What I was saying.
Just because I show up late one day.
Listen.
Yesterday, you know what,
No,
Nate?
don't-
You know how hard.
Tell me.
You know how hard Nate's day was yesterday.
I
Listen,
don't.
I had a
Please
meeting.
inform me.
I had a meeting at the cafe breakfast. I pull
Brown
up.
oh, yeah.
Nate's in there
Okay.
eating breakfast like at 10 in the morning. I'm like, okay, breakfast. So then I have another meeting. At Shorty's,
Dude.
and so I go in there. Nate's there with his family running around the soccer ball court.
Listen,
During the day,
Mondays we work
The
hard
work
on
day.
Sundays. I like to. I mean,
Field. I was like, court? That didn't sound right. Field, soccer field.
you can't expect me to do like work Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
but they like pay you to work.
It's just like the 40-hour work week is confining.
Hey, I have a good podcast episode you should listen to.
It is confining.
Really?
Yeah, we just recorded one about how to work well. So you should
Man.
listen.
Oh, that was out too. Go
Yeah.
back and listen if
Heard
you
it was
missed it.
good.
Be So Live, y'all going?
I think I might can make it.
How much do we have to pay you?
We don't have to talk about that
How
now.
much do we have to
Candy
pay you
canes.
to be there?
No,
Would you be willing to come for free?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Good.
Hey, we do
Would
have
you be
someone.
willing to come for free?
He's like, no. Here's the fun part is that Nate is like really planning it this year and I'm not, and I don't know what to do with myself. And it's
So what
causing
do we
me
have
some
to pay
anxiety.
you for?
I know.
Nothing. I said I would come for free.
Yeah, but you just
I've
I
always said
hesitated.
planning
I'll be
events
there.
is my dream.
I
So
think you might be okay at it, but I am confused
I'm getting the right people
about
on
how
the
you're
bus.
doing it.
I'm Getting the right people on the bus.
Okay.
All the people who have left staff, I'm like bringing them in to help
That's
plan.
is it sold out?
I don't know. We'd have to check.
Coley, can you see how many tickets to Be So Live? What is wrong with you?
Are you kidding me?
What are you doing, Kathy? We just like lost her.
Everything's
Why are
fine.
you getting
I
up?
almost spewed my drink.
What? And you're back on the
Just
Diet
a little
Coke
bit, guys.
train.
But I'm giving them up once a week. Do we
Who's
have
Coley?
an update
Are
on
they-
how many tickets we have?
You're the worst,
Kathy,
man.
you good over there?
You are the
Are
worst.
you good as the question?
Hey, when you're ready, just let me know.
We're
How many-
ready. This is your
How
we're
many
queuing
tickets?
you up.
How many tickets are there left?
We got about 250 spots left.
Wow.
Two.
That's not very many.
So we've already sold 2/3 in like a week?
Yeah.
2 weeks?
I don't really know.
So by the time this episode comes out,
What is
that
Be So
number's
Live?
sold out. Man, It is an immersive experience.
I was like, what are you about to make
What is
up?
Be So Live? Tell
Heard
them.
AI.
It's like all the best Be So listeners, like all in one place. And we record episodes that they get to pick.
3 episodes.
Yep. And
So
we have a
they're recorded
huge-
live.
Yep, we have a huge.
So you're in
after
studio
party.
audience. It's
Oh,
the 3 that we do with the studio
I say
audience.
things that don't make the
Wow.
You
Recording.
literally
Nate
said the
really
worst thing
went
he's
off
ever
the
said in my entire life.
And
which
that
is
was
saying a
like
lot.
there are some things that might happen that we can't.
There's
we
a
can't
Be So
release,
wedding
so.
happening this
Shut
weekend.
up.
Yeah,
They
like
met
I
was
don't
like
want to put
at
a false
the
hope,
event.
but every single year someone has gotten
multiple
has met their
weddings.
Because we have an awesome event called It's Just Coffee, which is like speed
It's
dating,
just
but
coffee.
not the pressure. So that's fun.
We should change the name to It's Just Coffee and potentially an engagement.
Okay, perfect.
Wow.
But no
Yeah.
pressure.
That we should say parenthetically.
Say
It's
all.
just
So-
coffee and maybe
And
marriage.
maybe marriage.
So last year
I like that.
we had like a
Oh wait, somebody write that down. I don't want to forget that. It's just coffee and maybe
got it.
marriage.
you have it?
I got it. Yeah.
Sure.
No, I
Okay.
really will write it.
Anyway,
down.
last year we had extra money and I was like, guys, can we please give away an engagement?
Because
ring?
we didn't have to pay Kathy last year.
I know, it was amazing.
That's why we had
Anyway,
extra
Kathy
money.
said I couldn't give away an engagement ring.
because
How
that is
wild
an
would that be?
awful.
Hey, if you want to sponsor the Be So Live engagement ring, let us know.
People want to pick their
Takori
own
Jeweler.
engagement rings
Is
out. I
Takori a
still
brand?
stand by
That's an
that.
engagement ring brand, right?
Tory Burch.
Scott Polk, Lyles DeGrazier. Hey, if you want to donate an
What's the-
engagement
what-
ring,
Every
What's the
kiss
stuff-
begins with K.
Shout
I
out.
know that one.
that's my guy, dude. And if you're in Dallas,
What's
I've
the
got
MK
an
bags?
engagement ring.
What are those
Mary
called?
Kay?
You Mary Kay?
Oh.
Did she make
She makes makeup.
No, it's not MK. That's Michael Kors. Y'all are so bad at this, man. Y'all are wasting everybody's time. We're 6 minutes into this episode, and
Mr. Zales, if you listen, hook us up. I didn't
y'all
know the
have an
difference.
engagement ring guy.
Yeah. I have an engagement ring.
I lost
Why
mine
do you
and
have
found
a
that
guy
for 5
if
years.
you've only needed to buy one? That is really
well,
the
that's not
question
true.
we
He's
should
bought
ask.
multiple.
I led a young adult ministry. I
Well, so did
literally
Nate
am
and I.
like
You
number
got-
one
you got
engagement ring
15%?
referral
Yeah.
in the country.
Do you get? Okay.
Yo,
about
yeah,
later.
I get
Kickback.
lots of kickbacks. No, I'm kidding. That's not
How
true.
many rings did you buy for Monica?
Just one. I got it redone though on our 10-year anniversary.
So sweet.
But is that the one you got and then
That was mine. I lost mine. So I lost my engagement ring in the lake at 130 feet deep, and I hired a scuba diver.
you did not?
Shut.
I hired a scuba diver, and he went down, and he said it was a field of mud, and my ring was sitting on top of a rock. He came up with it
No.
straight
That's
up.
crazy.
Like just went straight down. I was like, it dropped it right here. He went down. Like we're just sitting there for like 5 minutes, and the guy comes up and like gives it to me.
How have I never heard that? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's one. And then I was pushing my grandmother's car at night, when it had snowed. It was like a miraculous snow in South Texas, 6 inches of snow on the ground, and the car got stuck on ice. And so I went in the back and I was pushing it, and my hands got really cold, and I started doing this with my hands, trying to warm them up, like
Yep.
like
Slid right
flailing
off.
them, you know, what do you call that? Shaking my hands, and the ring just flew off at night into
In the snow.
a blanket of snow,
Wow.
straight up.
Did you find
And
it?
I'm like, oh man, I'm never gonna find it.
Totally.
There's no way you're finding this.
Oh my goodness. And so I prayed, and I walked
Won't
over.
he do it?
I like walked over like 25 feet away. I bent down. There's a little bit of hole in the snow, and I scooped up the snow, and my ring was in it.
Wow.
Dude, won't he
night?
do it? Yeah, at night, pitch
Dude.
black, dark,
Not to top yours, but I lost mine at a Walmart.
130 feet.
You lost yours in the Walmart too? You lost it in the parking lot
And then
here.
I also lost it in the parking lot here, Harris Creek. It got run over by a car.
Oh, it did?
A diamond came loose.
Wait, is this Walmart or here?
This is the one here in the parking lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Got run over. One of my friends finds it, but the diamond's gone. I'm so sad. Can't wear it. When I had Grace, I'm like sitting there holding her in the hospital, and Matt pulls out and reproposes, and he had fixed my ring without me knowing it. And
no
that's sweet.
way.
Yeah.
I didn't
so
know that.
he's baby got a guy too. Did you know that? It's really sweet.
Your kid's name is Grace.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
What?
Literally kidding me.
She's like 10 months old.
Yes.
I don't know why.
You
That
are.
just,
You
it
are.
just hit me
you are
different.
kidding.
Oh my
me.
gosh!
You know how it hits you different sometimes.
The
I
kid's
was
like
just
10 months old.
I was just like, that's a beautiful name. Y'all don't know my kid's name.
Yes, we do. I had conversation with Presley this weekend.
Finland.
That's one of them. I had
Finley
a
and
conversation with
Weston.
Judah this weekend. Judas.
That you couldn't
Baby
name the
Judas.
other ones.
Dude, you're showing magic to my kids.
Yeah, JC and I go way back.
Yeah.
Wow, Grace. I don't
What's-
even want to be on this podcast.
What's her middle
anymore.
name?
June. Grace June.
That's the most beautiful name ever.
Holy
I don't know why it
You
just
literally
hit me.
sent us a video in
No.
the hospital like, oh, Grace
I know,
June, we
I
love
know.
you.
No, I know. You know how like you hear something, you're like, and then it just hit me
Man, I
different.
didn't know that.
It just hit me different, guys. Give me.
Okay.
Can I have a little bit of grace?
I see what you did there.
Jeez.
You've met her. She was on the podcast. Do y'all remember that?
Yeah, I remember you holding her.
Thank you. She's a freaking angel. I'm
Hey,
wondering-
would you,
What?
we allowed to say freaking. I didn't mean to say it. Y'all can
she just said it again.
We don't edit this podcast at
Can
all.
we talk about
We're not
this?
gonna
We're
edit that.
10 minutes in.
Would
We're
you
not
ever
gonna
want to
edit.
have a fourth kid?
Guys,
Sure.
4 kids is hard.
Oh.
Just this past week.
Um.
I feel like I'm really suffering. Nate, do your
Hey,
job.
I'm letting you transition.
I'm doing everyone's job today.
I'm letting you transition.
She's like, I'm tired of carrying you guys.
Carrying the weight of this.
And I just had a baby.
So, JP, Kathy's
don't know.
suffering. How should she suffer well?
Please tell me what to do.
Man.
What are we
I
talking
was
about?
going to say something important a while ago about Be So Live, I feel like.
Oh,
Well,
there
I
she
mean,
comes.
we have a surprise. We have a surprise.
All right. Well, so we're recording this 2 weeks in advance. I don't know if there's any tickets left, but if there are, go
Get
get
it.
them.
Great Christmas gift.
We would love to hang out with you.
go
And
to becoming something.
it really is a good time.
See if I can plan
Live.
anything.
.org. Yeah, see how
.com.
good Nate does.
Yeah.
.com.
Okay, so everyone suffers at some point in their life. You really don't know when it's coming. You could get a call today, not wishing that on you, and it's like, man, your whole world just shifted. How do you go through suffering well? And another thing to talk about is like, how do you help people who are suffering? But let's start with, man, you're in the midst of suffering right now, man. Your dad has cancer. Your mom passed away. You lost your job. Going through a breakup. What does the Bible have to say about suffering well?
If the person is suffering.
Yeah.
How do they suffer well? What's
Yeah,
the question,
yeah,
man? There was
yeah.
a lot there, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the
Yeah.
question
How do
is.
they suffer well?
I'm still trying to figure out how I didn't know Kathy's daughter's
my
name.
Believe me.
Guys, there's a lot of you.
Don't ask
man.
him what my second daughter's
I
name is.
don't-
Listen, there's a lot.
I don't
you guys
wanna
are
ask my
having.
other
You
kids'
guys are
names either.
having babies like Mormons. I don't. What am I supposed to do?
Man,
I will. Can I
How
tell
am
you
I
what
supposed
Nate
to keep
said
track
the
of
other
all
day?
these children?
We were at
that-
Life Group,
that I love Mormons.
and he looked over at me, and he was like, "I can't trust you and Matt's advice on anything." And we were like, "Why?" And he goes, "Because y'all have 4 kids. Y'all are crazy."
I'm like, why would you want to do that?
I was like, "Man,
It's supposed to.
We
The
are.
quiver is 5. Blessed is the man whose
No,
quiver
we-
is
I have
full.
2, and I'm like,
I can't."
I have.
I don't know.
Okay, suffering.
What's
We
the
should do
question? Give me ask
How
ask
do
me
you
a
suffer
question.
well?
You're
What does the
wasting
Bible have to
people's
say
time.
about suffering well? How do you ace the test?
It's like I mean, here's
Oof.
the reality about suffering. So one is like when you hear suffering, right? It's different for everyone. Are we talking
Totally.
about loneliness? Are we talking about grief? Are we talking about chronic pain? Like I feel like the biggest weakling when I'm in pain.
Yes.
You know, like I've got this pain in my shoulder, bro. It's killing me. And people will do crazy things. Like you will do crazy things to feel okay.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so you start just thinking like, and that's when I'm like, do you really have faith?
Yeah.
Like if God is like, hey, you're gonna have chronic migraines
Mm-hmm.
until like take you to heaven,
Yeah.
are you gonna still follow me?
Yep.
You know? Like,
I know a girl
oh,
who's had a
man.
migraine every day for 7 years.
Yeah. And if that girl can raise her hand in worship and
She
say, blessed is the Lord who gives and takes away.
Yep.
Blessed be his name. You know?
Seriously.
I'm like, wow. That's an amazing faith, and the enemy is powerless over her. And so I think so many of us, they're like, man, God, I love you. I will follow you unless you.
Yep.
You know, and there's something like what do you put in the blank? The unless I'm single forever, unless I never get to experience sex, unless I never have children,
Yep.
unless I lose my job, unless everyone hates me. It's like, are you willing to be hated on an island in pain, celibate, and poor, and still worship God in that moment? And so I think the first thing in the midst of suffering is like, don't sin. Like you will compound your suffering with sin. and the enemy may give you temporary relief. Like, man, the reality is, if like with my shoulder, I'm like, I bet if I had a couple glasses of bourbon, my shoulder would feel better, right? But it's like, that's not. I don't want to do that. I don't want to compound that with shame or a headache the next morning, or sin in general. Were you gonna say
But
something?
don't you think that's kind of like owed to you, where it's like, man, God could snap his fingers and your shoulder's healed, and if
Yeah.
He's not going to do it,
I
you
do.
got to do something.
I
about
think
it.
the irony is that because of that idea, because of a high view of God's sovereignty, well, hey, God could solve it. Then we start to blame Him.
Yes.
We'll say, well, then God, it's your fault.
Yep.
And like, what, you don't love me? Like, why are you allowing me to suffer? And we have to understand. People say, why do bad things happen?
Right.
Why do bad things happen to good people?
Right.
Okay, there's a question. Why do bad things happen to good people? A couple things. No one's good, not even one. Romans tells us. So there's no such thing as a good person. All people do bad things. Like, if we walk through have you ever lied? Yes. Have you ever cheated? Or have you ever stolen something? Sure. So you're a liar and you're a thief right out the gate. Have you ever lusted after someone? Well, Jesus said you committed adultery, and you're an adulterer. You're a liar, a thief, an adulterer. Right? There's no one good. And bad things happen to people because sin entered the world in Genesis 3. Like, this is so important. So there's lots of broken things in this world. And so when you suffer, as when Lazarus died, like Jesus wept, like God doesn't desire you to suffer.
Right.
He's a good father.
It's not how He created
He's
the
not
world.
like, oh, I'm delighting in your suffering. He's
Right.
like, no, I've got a solution, and I want you. He can use your suffering to
Yep.
test your patience and to test your faith. And he's like, I want you to hold fast, and I've got a plan. I'm going to make it okay. And he's sympathetic in your suffering. Like, he's with you. He loves you. He mourns with you. He grieves with you. And so, no, it's not owed to you. Like, what is owed to us is hell. Like, we deserve death. But I think with that, like, that's, this is not a pastoral conversation when it's one to many. Like, I'm going to handle this
Totally.
conversation very
Totally.
different
Yeah, right.
one-on-one. If it's one-on-one, I'm like, man, I'm so sorry for what's happening to you. And just to remind you the truth. And sometimes, I think like the whole first 10 minutes of this, like, we laugh and we have fun. And if you can, without belittling someone's experience, like, if you can cheer them up, that there's something to that. So sometimes when you're suffering, it's like, I'm not saying like, go take a self-care day, but like, go do something that you love, go experience the joy of this life. Like, don't give up. Don't have a fatalistic mindset.
How do you not get bitter and suffering when it's like, I don't know. Let's say my mom has passed away, and it's like, man, look at the rest of my friends, and they've got great relationships with their mom, and it's like, it just doesn't seem fair. Where it's like, yeah, none of us are good, but why do they seem to get good things?
Why do you think like people? This happened to me this weekend. Somebody was really upset, disappointed with God when their father passed away, and he was 72, and I'm like, I don't want to be insensitive. I know this is, again, a one-to-many conversation, not a pastoral conversation, but like, everyone around you right now is going to die, right?
I don't think people think that
Nope.
way. I feel like in ministry I think that way, but I don't think people think
Like,
that way.
literally every human being is going to die. And whenever you're mad at God because of their death, you're not really mad because of their death. You're mad because, I guess, His timing.
Right.
Which I even can kind of understand at, like, a younger age, but when somebody dies in their 70s, I'm like, man, that's kind of the way that it works, And
Yeah.
so I've always wondered that. I know that's not super pastoral and like kind. That's not how I would handle the situation in a like pastoral ministry conversation, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we get
Probably
really,
just the, like,
really
deep
discouraged by
grief.
God's timing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I was talking to a friend. We were talking about deconstruction. And a lot of times deconstructing our faith begins when we go through a really hard time or we suffer, right? And so we're like, why would God allow this? Why did it happen to me? I've been doing the right things. I've been following God. And in reality, like, that's a discipleship problem because Scripture is full of the fact that we will suffer in this world, right? Like Jesus says, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. So like suffering isn't like an act, or like it's not something that we weren't guaranteed. We didn't know it was coming. If we've really been discipled, if we know our Bible, if we have like a strong faith, we are to realize that suffering is just a part of being a Christian.
Yeah.
Not the way God intended the world when he made it, but because sin entered the world, suffering is now a part of the equation.
Yeah. And
So I feel like we have to realize that.
Yeah, he literally promised it. So I think don't sin, right? Don't sin. Search to have joy in the midst of it. Be cognizant of the story God is writing, because there's a lot of people that are suffering. So in 1 Peter chapter 5, he says, brothers and sisters throughout the world are undergoing the same kind of suffering.
Yeah.
So don't think you're terminally unique.
Yeah.
I think so often the enemy, in that right before that, your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. I think the enemy wants to try to convince us that we're all by ourselves.
Yes.
And that we're the only ones lonely. We're the only ones, that
Hurting.
don't have something fun to do. We're the only ones hurting. We're the only ones who's lost a parent or a child. Like, we're the only ones suffering. And the scripture's really clear. It's like, no, everybody around the world undergoes suffering, and lots, like, different kinds of suffering. And some of them are suffering just like you, and some of them are suffering even greater than you. And so to remind, like, hey, you're not terminally unique. And so to remember that. And then I think you have to hold fast to this idea that you're not home yet. And that's that last part of 1 Peter 5. He says, the glory that will be revealed in Christ. Like, we're waiting, like, one day Jesus is going to return and he's going to make everything new. And so my suffering really serves as a reminder to me that I'm not where I'm going to be. Like, I'm not home.
So good.
And so how do I, even if we walk through this, a really great passage to deal with suffering, because he says, humble yourselves under God's mighty hand, cast your anxieties on him because he cares for you. So this idea that I think a lot of times our vulnerabilities of suffering is what we seek to control. And so the thing that we love the most is an area that we can suffer the most. I think about this like with a child. Like, man, I love my child so much. So what would be the most vulnerable area of me is like, man, if something happened to my kid, right? And so you can kind of think about that. Anything that's an idol, it can become a target for the enemy. But I think also, like, Satan seeks to inflict us with suffering. And it's a test. Like, he's trying to get you to turn your back on God. And that's the whole chapter of Job.
Yep. I like having talked to someone who's like gone through a lot of suffering, and they say the craziest thing, or at least some of them have said, like, I wish, and I don't want to be back in that season, but I miss the intimacy with.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
I've
of your
never felt-
wife. I'm thinking of your wife right now because y'all went through a miscarriage last year.
That's not public.
Sorry.
That's your fault.
I thought.
I'm sorry.
He goes,
I'm
here's what
sorry.
just
You
happened.
did. It was on your-
Here's
you
what just
said-
happened.
Okay,
Here's what
but
just
I
happened. No,
actually- I
this
really
is what
wanna
just
have this
happened. Okay, you're gonna say it, but
conversation.
here's let me just explain to the whole world what just happened. He thought, hey, here's a funny opportunity for me to make
Yeah.
a joke.
Well-
And then as he's making the joke,
he's like-
he realized, hey, this probably is not an appropriate joke for me to make.
Yep. But he still
And
did it.
here we are.
Here we are. Well, I would like to say I'm thinking of your wife right now because they went through this miscarriage. It was really tough, and like a while of waiting for a baby before that too.
Yep.
And then you guys got pregnant, and she said the craziest thing. She was like, "I miss the intimacy." She said, "I don't want to lose the intimacy that I had with God when we were in that really hard season."
Yeah.
So there is something beautiful that can come from suffering when we suffer, quote unquote, well, when we suffer with God.
So what's the difference between you, who just
Yeah.
like
made a
we're
terrible joke.
really lighthearted about a really heavy topic, but it's you,
Yeah.
and somebody who goes through that and like can't get out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why can you?
I don't know. Part of it could be now that we have a baby.
Yeah.
I hope that's not necessarily the answer.
It's
But
good.
I don't know. I feel like as I've gotten older, the more and more I'm like, man, I feel like I'm owed nothing.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm not. So even if I want to
Did
have
you experience disappointment with God in the midst of that?
for sure. Oh yeah.
It's just
For
like,
sure.
hey, why would you do this?
Totally. Where it's like, man, this doesn't make sense. And it was so hard. And I've talked to so many people who went through that. Yeah. And it's like, man, I can't believe so many people go
Totally.
through that because it's so painful.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's really, really hard. But
And I think
I don't know.
I think like, what was the most helpful thing that people did for you in that time?
I mean, one of the least helpful things, and I do this, is like, hey, let me know if you need anything.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to tell you jack squat about, hey, I need this.
It's
So
like,
you're
hey
not even
man,
think
I know
about
you
it.
said this the other day,
Yeah,
and
right.
I mean, I've been praying about it,
Yeah.
and I feel like a new car
Yeah.
Totally.
would kind of help things.
Some money could help.
Like you think that helps, and it's like, oh no, we're good, and it's like,
Because
no,
when you're
but we're
going
not
through
good.
it, you don't know what you need necessarily.
But I mean,
to
like,
articulate
so like I
it.
tell you, and man, like the next day, there's like flowers from JP, maybe even coffee. You followed up multiple times.
Maybe even coffee.
Was there coffee?
There was coffee.
Dude,
I
there was
said that.
coffee.
Okay, there was coffee.
But
See?
I think it was like wrong or something. I got the order wrong, and
Did
you
you?
drank Adelise or something.
I don't remember it. But it's like just
So it's just
people
like-
who went and did something.
This will be good. I think resist the urge to say something. So 3 things when somebody's suffering. Resist the urge to say something profound. So it's not the time to be like Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to your purpose. So number 1, if somebody in your life group, somebody in your small group, home group, cell group, community group is suffering, they experienced loss, they lost their job, they lost a child, they lost a relationship, you show up. So show up like, hey, I'm here. You don't need to say anything profound. You don't need to give them a Bible verse. You don't need to be cliche or trite. You can say, I don't even know what to say. So many people in the church, when they lose a child, they go through a miscarriage or something tragic happens, everyone thinks, well, I don't want to make them feel awkward, so I'm just going to pull back. Do not do that. That's not helpful. Show up. Say, hey, I'm here. I don't know exactly what to say. I'm so sorry for what has happened, and I just want you to know. And then I'm going to look for ways to serve you, and then do it. Make good on that. And the smallest things. I mean, if you don't know what to do, wash their car, mow the grass, get food delivered to their house. Go on get a bunch of like factor meals or something, and just fill their fridge with them. Do whatever you need to do, but do something. Give them a gift card. Just say, hey, here's a Grubhub gift card or a DoorDash gift card. If you can order food on your own, you don't need to worry about this now. And just meet a need. So show up, resist the urge to say something profound, look for a need and meet it. That's I think it's like textbook on how to care for somebody who's suffering.
And people don't forget. They don't forget that. I mean, 5 years later, it's like, man, they showed up.
Totally. And you remember who didn't. That is something I will say. You remember who wasn't there in that moment. And one thing I would add is like, keep showing up. Like months down the road. I mean, the flowers, they die. The meal train dries up after a few weeks. And then the grief sometimes hits you at, a few months in or down the road. And so checking in,
Can you ask them about it, or is that awkward?
Yes, bring it up. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I've had so many friends go through miscarriages or losing a child or those kind of things, and they want to talk about it. Like,
You
say
think
the
they
baby's
don't? That's
name.
Satan, man. That's the enemy.
Yes.
Say, hey, how are you doing with the loss of?
And put the date of passing like in your calendar. Like when my friends have lost parents, I put it in so that you can remember. Okay, hey, their birthday is coming up. I need to make sure to text them.
The text
'cause they're
goes
gonna
such a
be
long way.
thinking
It's like,
about
hey,
it.
I'm thinking about you today.
Yes.
And like, do you want to see who your real friends, like really great friends are, who are great friends? Like they're just like, hey, I know this is a big. And it's like, man, that like goes a long ways.
Yes.
And so text them, put it in your calendar, like she said, and truly, like, don't think you can't bring it up. Like you gotta, like, you don't want to
Avoid
make
it.
them feel awkward. That's the Satan does that.
Yes.
Look them in the eyes and say, hey, how are you doing with the loss of so and so? Or hey, I know this day is a reminder to you in this way, and just like, man. And if they cry and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't want to cry, be like, oh man, I want to, you know what? I want to be the kind of friend you can cry with.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of friend I want to be.
I actually want to cry with you.
Yeah.
Like that is what we're called to do in Scripture. Mourn with those who mourn. And sometimes you want to keep that to yourself. You don't want to like be awkward or put that on your friend. And it's like, no, I want to like sit with you and I want to like boo-hoo ugly cry because this really stinks.
You know who's never cried with me?
Me. Oh, Nate. Yeah.
No one.
I don't know if he's ever cried in general.
No, I've seen him cry
I
once.
know. Same.
His team lost.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I actually kind of teared up this morning. Can't tell you why. I can tell you later, but
Wow.
actually I can't tell you later.
You can't tell her later?
I can't tell her. Maybe I can tell
What?
you.
Oh. That's what's up.
We're in life groups.
Hey,
That means nothing to you.
It's your favorite guy.
But I did tear up this morning. Oh my gosh!
Could
Come
answer
answer it.
this.
Answer it.
The only other thing I would
probably
say,
shouldn't.
like, actually two thoughts on like how to suffer well. Back to the person who's in suffering. First is like, I think even the phrase "how to suffer well" could be like a load or a burden on that person. Like
Yeah.
I know myself, if I'm in that, you want to ace the test, like even phrases like that is like, okay, I'm in this pain. How do I do it right? How do I do it right? I don't want to mess up. I don't
Yeah.
want to sin. I just
Yep.
want to like lift that for whoever is in deep pain that's listening right now and just say like, there's not a right or wrong way to do it. The only miss would be to not invite Jesus into it. And that doesn't mean you're going to have good days or you can't have the feels that you're having. Like, experience the emotions you're having, but just bring God into
And
that.
sometimes people suffer differently and go through
Yes,
things,
and
and
it's going
like,
to look
man,
different than someone else.
maybe I actually feel like I'm okay. And I don't know
Yeah,
if
and
I
that's
should.
okay if you
and
are.
then some people, they're taken out. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
try to suffer one way or another. I would just say, like, however you're feeling that day, invite
Yeah.
God into it.
Right.
And, like, He is so present with you. That's just my whole
He's
thought.
so present with
Yeah, we should write a
you.
song. And we have a
He is
lot of empathy
present.
because I'm sure every person listening to this has some point of suffering that they're going through, or they
Totally.
will soon.
100%.
So, man, thinking about you guys.
Hey, you're either in a storm, you're
Yeah.
going to be in a storm, or you were in a storm.
Or your friends are in a storm. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm either in a storm or my friends are in a storm.
Yeah. I feel
So-
like the older you get, I feel like it's like
Constant.
unending.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Makes me
It's always
excited for
raining.
heaven.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Well, I just feel like
You
there's
feel like
always.
it's always raining?
Well,
Aw.
no, maybe it's because you're just in community with other people. So it's like your life turns into 10 lives, and then
That's maybe how it's supposed
I
to
mean,
be.
ministry is like hard not to get jaded in ministry, right? Because you're
Totally.
just like everyone brings you their problems. It's like if you're a doctor, you're always talking to sick people.
Yes.
yeah,
Like in
Right.
ministry, you're always talking to people who need to be ministered to.
yeah, right.
Yeah, I feel that.
Mm,
But it's like we have like nobody has hope like we have hope.
totally.
Like we're gonna be with God forever and ever and ever and ever and ever in His kingdom.
And all
Man.
will be made right.
I mean, you said something crazy the other day in a sermon where it's like you see Job in heaven, you're like, hey, how hard was that? And he's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already forgotten.
You're
And
like,
he's
dude, you
"Oh,
lost
yeah,
your
that
family."
that was thousands and thousands and thousands and
He's like,
thousands of years ago."
I haven't thought about that in a long time. And you're like, look at your book. Look how much you suffered. He goes, oh yeah,
You're
I
like,
did.
it was
I
the
for-
whole
I
book,
totally.
and it's very long.
You're like, you lost all your family, like your children. He goes, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Like I've been in heaven so long. Look at my house.
man.
I just think,
We're
like,
crazy people, man.
yes, but we have heaven to look forward to. And so if you're in suffering or a friend is, even just reminding yourself of the picture in Revelation 21.
Yeah.
That, like, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and He will dwell with them. They will be His people. God Himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. And He says, I am making everything new.
Any opportunity for Kathy to show the world that she's memorized the Bible.
Okay. Very clearly reading it off my phone.
She's shocked it wasn't the message.
I was speaking somewhere, and I was like, dude, we are weird, and it was like impromptu. It wasn't in my notes, and I was like, dude, I tell my kids like we are weird.
That's so helpful to think about.
And I was like we believe there is someone who created the world, but you can't see him, but we talk to him, and he's going to make us princes and princesses and be heirs to a kingdom that's going to come here that he's going to build, that we get to start. And like, there's some things he doesn't want us to do in the land right now that we want to hold, and it's just like, you start thinking about what we actually believe, and you're like, man, we are out of our minds unless it's true. And then we're the most brilliant people there are.
I did have one more thought.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
feel like you're wrapping up.
No, you're fine.
Sorry.
What's up, man? We can make it a 40-minute. I mean, you did waste our time 10 minutes on the front end, but it's fine.
I don't
Whatever.
think that was all my fault, but mostly.
What's your middle son's name?
Shut.
So
You
she
do
said
call them by
freaking,
Jake.
and she's about
I
to say
know.
shut up.
Jake and Judah.
Y'all are the worst.
If you don't know that,
Oh, I'm just thinking, like, the people who are not suffering right now, I think you can prepare to suffer in the future by
Buying a
storing
bunch
up.
of storing up like like rice.
Food.
Yeah, just get that
Dry
like
goods.
emergency
Dry
pack
goods.
ready. No,
Yeah.
storing up treasure now in your heart. I have
Gold.
yes. Oh. Okay. I feel like this was helpful to say, and y'all are ruining it, but I'm gonna just talk over your laughter.
Get your gold.
Like scripture is your goal. Like the more and more you cultivate a relationship with God now, that is only going to feed your soul later. Like a friend right now is in suffering, and she's like, I'm trying to read my Bible. It's really hard. I'm trying to pray, but you know what's holding me is like the countless prayers I've said before this. The scripture that like I read daily for years is popping into my head when I don't have capacity to read it today. So to encourage you is like, if you're not suffering right now, store that up in your heart, because what the heart is full of, the mouth. The mouth speaks what the heart is full of. From the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So the more you put in your heart,
For
eventually
what
it will come
you're
out. What you
full
put in
of
is going to come out. So
in
put
your
in all that
heart.
good now. Store it up.
Store it up. Store it
So that
up.
when you suffer, you can suffer well.
Listen, and today's sponsored by Survival Kits. You store
Doomsday
up food,
packages.
Doomsday, and we
Your
also
goals.
have a special Black Friday special, 30% off. Yeah, gold. Yeah.
Hey, if the world was gonna end and there's like a flood, and you had to fly to Mars to like
I wouldn't do
live,
it.
would you do it?
Dying here on earth. And there's not going to be another flood. Have you read the Bible?
Yeah, dude.
Do you
Read the
believe
Bible.
God? Do you take God at his word? You could have said anything.
Have you not
else.
seen a rainbow?
Yeah.
This is wrong with you, man.
But I
don't know,
would never get in a
wouldn't-
spaceship.
I wouldn't really want to go in a spaceship.
For sure, no.
I also
I'm
wouldn't
so
want to
scared.
drown.
Why wouldn't you want to be in a spaceship?
They're scary.
I don't like roller
I don't want to go to
coasters.
space.
Scarier
It's
than
so infinite.
rising floodwaters.
I'm y'all just take me home, Jesus.
Take me home tonight.
Take me home, country roads. We do a lot of singing on here.
Y'all really do, yeah.
I don't feel like we do enough.
To the place I belong.
Y'all know any Creed? Court is in session.
No.
The verdict is in. No appeal on the docket today. Just my own sin.
It's just like even the Creed voice makes
Want
me.
you to
Was
take
cold.
me higher.
Can you
take
take
Oh, that's
me higher?
That's what it is.
All right.
With the arms wide open.
Is that Creed?
With arms wide open. All
They've
right,
stopped
guys.
listening, so we should say bye.
We love you guys.
Have a
If you're
great
still here,
Sorry
you're
for
an OG.
suffering.
You're the real deal. If you listen this far, you're committed. We'll see you at Be So Live. To the rest of you that dropped off 6 minutes ago, yeah. We'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Becoming Something, where we promise to keep the conversation honest and real for young adults in their 20s and 30s. Every moment we live is training for a future moment, and that's why we do this podcast, because we want you to be prepared for everything that life is going to throw at you. Our hope with this podcast is that it would help you become all that God desires you to be. To find out more, visit becomingsomething.com.